Most gardeners think spring is when the battle against pests begins. But the truth is, you're already losing the war if you wait that long. The aphids, the beetles, the slugs that devour your tomatoes and roses next May are quietly preparing right now, tucked into leaf litter and soil crevices, waiting for the first warm days to explode across your garden. October isn't just about putting the garden to bed. It's about declaring victory before the battle even starts. If this sounds like the kind of garden wisdom you've been searching for, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a tip that could save your harvest. Hey there, fellow gardeners, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into 3 essential October tasks that'll have your garden practically pest-free come spring, and I promise some of these might completely change how you think about fall cleanup. Here's something that involves your lawn, and October lawn care directly impacts your spring garden health. If you have persistent grub problems, those white C-shaped larvae that turn into Japanese beetles, and June bugs, October is when you can do something about it. Those grubs are actively feeding now, and they'll pupate over winter and emerge as adult beetles next spring, heading straight to your roses, beans, and grapes. The best organic solution is applying beneficial nematodes in October while soil temperatures are still above 50 degrees. These microscopic organisms hunt down and parasitize grubs without harming earthworms or pets. You mix them with water and spray across your lawn, watering them in thoroughly. Within weeks, they'll significantly reduce your grub population, meaning fewer beetles destroying your garden next summer. Another October lawn task is keeping fallen leaves raked up from areas closest to garden beds. Those leaves create perfect slug habitat right next to where your spring lettuce will grow. Either rake them entirely or mulch them with a mower, so they break down quickly rather than forming a dense pest-harboring mat. Have you noticed Japanese beetles in your garden? Now I want to share something most gardeners miss. Your garden tools and containers themselves become carriers of pests and diseases from season to season. You've been using those pruners and pots all season, moving from plant to plant, potentially picking up hitchhikers. October is perfect for giving everything a deep clean. Mix 1 part bleach to 9 parts water and wipe down all pruners, loppers, and saw blades. This kills lingering fungal spores, bacterial diseases, and pest eggs. Let them air dry, then apply light oil to prevent rust. For shovels and hose, scrub off all soil with a stiff brush, then wipe with bleach solution. Soil clinging to tools can harbor root maggots, nematodes, and disease pathogens you'll spread to clean areas next spring. Your pots need even more attention. Empty old soil, scrub pots thoroughly with soapy water, then soak in bleached solution for 10 minutes. Rinse well and let them dry completely in the sun. UV light provides additional disinfection. Used potting soil from containers with healthy plants can potentially be reused, but any soil from containers where plants struggled should be disposed of entirely. Do you have a system for cleaning your tools? Let's talk about fruit trees and berry bushes, because October pest prevention for these is entirely different from annual vegetables. If you have apple or pear trees, look for mummified fruits still hanging or lying beneath. These dried fruits are overwintering sites for codling moth larvae, apple maggot pupae, and fungal diseases. Every mummified fruit needs removal and destruction. Collect and dispose of them far from the tree. Inspect bark for borer signs, and if you spot holes with sawdust like frass, Take action before they overwinter. For peach, plum, and cherry trees, the same applies. Remove remaining fruit and rake fallen leaves, especially if you had brown rot issues. Consider applying dormant oil spray in late October once trees drop leaves. This smothers overwintering pest eggs hiding in bark crevices. Blueberry bushes should be cleaned around their base, removing dropped berries that harbor fungal spores and fruit fly larvae. If you grow raspberries or blackberries, October is when you remove spent canes. Cut fruited canes completely to the ground. Leaving them creates overwintering habitat for cane borers. Grapevines need similar attention. Remove mummified grapes and prune diseased wood. These woody perennials are long-term investments, and October attention multiplies into years of healthier harvests. What fruit trees are you growing? I saved something important for last. Making a simple map right now while everything is fresh about where pest problems occurred this season. Next March, when you're planning your spring garden, you won't remember that the southeast corner had terrible aphid problems, or that tomatoes near the compost bin got hit with hornworms, or that slugs destroyed everything in that shady spot by the fence. Take 15 minutes now to sketch a rough garden map and note where problems happened. Mark disease issues, worst pest areas, which varieties struggled and thrived. Note environmental factors. Too shady, too wet, too dry. This isn't about elaborate journaling. This is capturing information while current so you make smarter decisions when spring planting hits. The best pest prevention is not planting susceptible crops where pests thrived before, and you can't do that without knowing where problems occurred. Take photos of your garden now, too. These visual records combined with notes create references that help you break pest cycles through smart rotation. So there you have it. 3 essential October strategies for a pest-free spring. We covered selectively cleaning diseased debris while leaving beneficial habitat, the power of fall soil turning and mulching done right, and often overlooked tactics like tool cleaning, strategic perennial management, and creating beneficial insect homes. The garden isn't just sleeping through winter. It's a battlefield where next year's war is already being decided, and you've just armed yourself with knowledge to win. October work might not have the immediate gratification of spring planting, but it's the foundation that makes those seasons successful. Every pest you disrupt now is a plant you save next year. Every beneficial insect you shelter is an ally. And every smart cleanup decision saves time and frustration later. Which October tasks are you most excited to tackle? And what pest problems are you hoping to finally get ahead of next year? If you found this helpful, share it with a fellow gardener who could use these strategies, and subscribe so you catch all the seasonal tips that'll keep your garden thriving year-round. Happy gardening, and here's to a pest-free spring ahead. Let's talk about something that might surprise you. Leaving your garden completely clean and tidy in fall can actually work against you. I know we've all been told to rake up every leaf and pull every dead stem, but here's the thing. Not all garden debris is your enemy, and understanding the difference is crucial. Walk through your beds right now, and you'll probably see collapsed tomato vines, browning bean plants, and maybe some squash leaves that look like they've seen better days. These annual vegetables that showed any signs of disease during the growing season, whether it was powdery mildew on those squash leaves or early blight on the tomatoes, need to come out completely. We're talking roots and all. And here's the critical part. Don't compost them. Diseased plant material can harbor fungal spores and bacterial problems that survive the winter in your compost pile, only to reinfect your garden when you spread that compost in spring. Instead, bag them up and send them to municipal composting where temperatures get hot enough to kill pathogens. Or if your area allows it, burn them. While you're removing those problematic plants, take a close look at fallen leaves, especially around fruit trees and roses. Apple scab, black spot on roses, fire blight, these diseases love to winter over on fallen foliage. Rake up and dispose of any leaves that look spotted or discolored from beneath fruit trees, roses, and any plants that struggled with disease this year. Here's where it gets interesting. Healthy leaves from healthy plants can actually be left in designated areas or lightly spread across empty garden beds. These create habitat for beneficial insects like ground beetles and spiders that prey on pest insects. The key is knowing which debris protects and which debris harbors problems. Have you noticed disease patterns in your garden this past season? Now, let's move into the fall soil work that makes or breaks your spring pest situation. October is the best time to disrupt pest life cycles happening beneath your feet. Right now, countless insects are burrowing into your soil to spend the winter. Grubs, pupae, even adult beetles, tucking themselves into the top few inches of soil. If you have areas not being used for fall and winter crops, especially vegetable beds, turn that soil over. When you do this in October, especially in areas that experience freezing temperatures like the Midwest or Northeast, you're exposing those overwintering pests to the elements. Grubs that were cozy 6 inches down are suddenly on the surface where birds can spot them, where freezing and thawing cycles can kill them, where they simply dry out. Even in milder climates across the south and coastal regions, turning the soil exposes pests to predators and disrupts their winter homes. Here's the bonus. When you turn soil in fall and let it sit rough through winter, you're also improving soil structure. Those clumps will break down naturally, and by spring, you'll have beautifully workable soil. But avoid over-tilling and don't turn soil that's too wet. The soil should be moist enough to hold together when squeezed, but dry enough to crumble apart easily. What's your soil type? And have you tried fall soil turning before? Here's something that'll change how you see garden cleanup, managing the places where pests actually want to spend their winter. Most garden pests are looking for specific conditions: protection from cold, some humidity, darkness, and proximity to their favorite food source come spring. Your garden is full of these perfect pest hotels, those piles of old pots stacked against the shed. Perfect. The heap of unused landscape fabric rolled up near the fence? Ideal. The space between your house foundation and that overgrown shrub? Paradise for overwintering pests. October is the time to identify and eliminate these pest havens. Walk your entire property with a critical eye. Old boards lying on the ground are classic hiding spots for slugs and earwigs. Stacks of empty pots create perfect spaces for spider mites and aphids. Dense ground covers growing right against your house create protected spaces for various beetles. Move pot storage away from active garden areas, ideally into a shed or garage. Clean up any lumber, stones, or debris that's been sitting directly on the soil. For ground covers and dense perennials near your house, cut them back and create a clean zone of at least a foot between the plants and your foundation. Where in your yard do you have those forgotten corners that might be sheltering more than you realize? Now here's where things get really interesting. We need to talk about mulch as a strategic weapon against spring pests. Most people think mulch is just mulch, but October mulching done right can make or break your pest situation. Let's start with what not to do. Don't pile mulch right up against plant stems. Those mulch volcanoes you see around trees? They're creating pest resorts, not protection. Mulch piled against stems creates constant moisture, inviting fungal diseases and giving slugs and sow-bugs a protected highway right to your plant's vulnerable tissues. Instead, pull mulch back 3 to 4 inches from the base of every plant, creating a little donut of bare soil around each stem. This gap allows air circulation and removes that protected pathway pests love. For vegetable beds and annual flower areas, apply a fresh layer about 2 to 3 inches thick. Too thin won't suppress weeds or provide insulation. Too thick creates anaerobic conditions and more pest habitat. Shredded leaves make fantastic free mulch. Just run over fallen leaves with a bagging mower a few times and spread them across beds. They'll break down over winter, feeding your soil while suppressing both weeds and overwintering pest eggs. Straw is another excellent choice for vegetable gardens because it's less likely to harbor pests than wood chips. Pro tip: avoid using hay because it's loaded with seeds that'll sprout everywhere come spring. Around perennials and shrubs, wood chips or shredded bark work beautifully. Keep that mulch layer consistent but not excessive, and never let it touch plant stems directly. What type of mulch do you typically use? Let me share something most advice overlooks: being selective with fall cleanup based on what you're actually growing. If you have brassicas like kale, cabbage, or Brussels sprouts for fall harvest, October is when you need vigilance about cabbage worms and aphids still active in many regions. These pests are trying to squeeze in one last generation before cold weather, and they can devastate crops in weeks. Check undersides of leaves where pests hide, hand-pick caterpillars, and if aphids are building, spray them off with water. Here's what's crucial: any brassica plants that are finished or heavily infested should come out now. Every day you leave infested plants is another day those pests reproduce and look for places to overwinter nearby. For brassicas you're keeping, consider row cover fabric for pest protection and frost protection. The same applies to late-season crops. Lettuce and spinach can harbor aphids and slugs that'll overwinter in the plant crown or surrounding debris. Keep these areas clean, removing yellowing or damaged leaves. If you grew tomatoes, peppers, or eggplants, these need complete removal in most climates. Spider mites, whiteflies, and beetles are looking for protected spots in dead foliage. Pull these plants entirely and dispose of them if you had pest issues. Are you growing any fall crops needing special attention? Here's something that'll change your spring. Thinking ahead about companion planting starting now in October. Certain plants you put in the ground this fall will emerge early in spring and actually lure pests away from your main crops or repel them entirely. Let's talk about garlic, because if you're not planting garlic in October, you're missing multiple benefits. Garlic planted now establishes roots through fall and winter, then bursts out in early spring right when aphids and other pests are emerging. Garlic naturally repels many pests with its sulfur compounds, and when you interplant it among spring vegetables or around fruit trees, you're creating a protective barrier. Choose a sunny spot with well-draining soil, break apart bulbs into individual cloves, and plant each clove pointed end up, about 2 inches deep and 6 inches apart. Mulch lightly after planting, and by spring, you'll have strongly growing garlic working for you all season. From Minnesota's cold winters to Georgia's mild ones, garlic does beautifully, though varieties differ by region. Other fantastic October plantings include onions, shallots, or bunching onions. All create an aromatic barrier that confuses and repels common pests. The magic happens in spring when these plants are already established, while pests are just waking up looking for targets. Have you tried fall garlic planting yet? Here's something that'll blow your mind about October pest prevention. Beneficial insects are looking for winter homes right now. While you're disrupting pest habitats, you need to be creating hotels for the good guys, and October is prime time. Mason bees, lacewings, ladybugs, and predatory wasps are all searching for protected spots to overwinter, and if your garden doesn't offer them, they'll leave you without these pest-eating allies come spring. The simplest thing you can do is leave some areas intentionally messy in parts of your yard away from main garden beds. That patch of native perennials at the edge of your property, let the seed heads stand through winter. Those hollow stems of bee balm, black-eyed Susans, or cone flowers are perfect overwintering spots for native bees and beneficial wasps. If you can pile up some small branches in a corner, you're creating habitat for ground beetles that devour slug eggs and soil-dwelling pests. Here's the balance. Be surgical about removing pest habitats near active growing areas while creating beneficial insect habitats in strategic locations. Think of it as zoning your property. Another option is installing bee houses. Drill holes of varying sizes, from 1/8 to 1/2 inch diameter, into untreated wood blocks and mount them facing south. Native bees will use these for nesting sites and overwinter as adults inside. Come spring, they emerge hungry and ready to pollinate while their larvae feed on pest insects. What's your take on leaving some areas wild versus keeping everything tidy? Now let's talk about whether to cut back perennials in fall or leave them standing. From a pest prevention standpoint, the answer depends on what you grew and what problems you faced. Perennials that showed disease or heavy pest pressure should absolutely be cut back now and debris removed. Phlox with powdery mildew, hostas that were slug cafeterias, bee balm covered in mildew, irises with borers. These all need cutting down to just above ground level. This removes overwintering sites for diseases and pests. However, healthy perennials, especially natives, can often be left standing with major benefits for beneficial insects. Ornamental grasses, cone flowers, sedums, and asters provide winter interest, while their hollow stems house beneficial insects. The key is being honest about plant health. If a plant struggled, cut it back. If it thrived, consider leaving it, especially away from your vegetable garden. For roses, remove any diseased leaves and rake up fallen leaves beneath them to prevent black spot from overwintering. Daylilies often look ratty by fall, and thrips can overwinter in the crown, so cut them back completely. Hostas are similar. Once frost blackens leaves, cut them back and remove all debris, especially if slugs were problematic. The general rule: perennials that were pest or disease magnets get cut back and cleaned up. Healthy natives that provide habitat can stay standing. Does this match how you've been handling your perennials?